Hi, it's Therese from Lostinpaper, and I have a really easy swimming pool for you to make using the Yupo paper and alcohol inks and this fabulous set from Avery Elle. It's called Splash, and when I saw this set I just had to have it, and I had to have the matching dies because there's a pool in there. And I don't own a pool. Oh, until I got these dies I didn't own a pool, so I'm pretty happy about that. Alright, so I'm going to start by creating my pool background, and I have some, this is the Ranger alcohol ink and some Yupo paper, and I'm using some isopropyl alcohol, only because I don't have any blending alcohol yet, but I have some on the way, don't worry. I have some mixative as well, which is called Snowcap. And oh, I forgot to tell you the other colour. It's called turquoise. So it is a fairly dark blue, but this mixative actually comes in and lightens it up in areas. And I did have to work this panel a little bit, and I've heard that the blending solution works a lot better, and I've also heard that it's better not to wet the surface first, which is what I did try to do this time. But I just kept adding, and I figured I've got nothing to lose. It is really fun, gotta say. I have seen people use straws to move the ink around, so you just blow through the end of a straw and actually move the ink around that way. I just tipped my paper and used more alcohol from the bottle, as well as more ink. I just kept adding it until I was happy. I did actually leave this aside to dry overnight because some of the areas were quite thick, but I really like the effect that it had. The final look of this, to me, really looked like water. Hey, there's my pool. How cool is that? Okay, so like I said, I couldn't stop playing with it. The images that I decided to use from the set, now I didn't know what I was going to do exactly, so I stamped a few extras out. They won't go astray, I'll use them on another project, but I just did some really simple Copic colouring, and I did leave some sort of white highlights as well. I've got the lids of the colours that I've used off to the side so you can see what I'm colouring with there, and I'm doing just some really basic blending. At the moment I'm quite into Copic colouring messily. Does that make sense? I'm not doing my perfect blending. I am leaving sort of white highlights on the images. On this yellow tube I left a black mark. I don't know what happened here. I must have had a splotch of my Memento Tuxedo ink pad, must have left like a dot, I'm not sure, but anyway, I figured I'm just going to go with it, and I wasn't even sure if I was going to use it anyway, so I am going to lay the women over top of these floaties, and I thought you're probably not going to see it. The images, like I said, I coloured with stamped out with some Memento Tuxedo black. You could use any of the Copic friendly inks for this. I did use my Misty tool though, because what I like to do is actually come back in and restamp it, and I'm using my Onyx black ink to restamp it. Just makes the edges of the lines of the images pop that little bit more. It's a nice bold black, and that's why I left all the stamps in place while I did my colouring. So I've die cut the pool, my pool, out of some fun foam and out of some cardstock. Oh, the other thing I haven't mentioned either that I've been using is the Nina. Both versions, the 110 pound and the 80 pound. That's another thing I'm getting used to, is Copic colouring on that cardstock. I've used different cardstock, and I am really happy with how it colours. I have minimal bleeding, only with your normal colours that you get bleeding, like the reds and things, but I'll keep you posted on that as well. I adhered the pull to the fun foam just using some matte medium, and then I've also die cut all my images out. It's just so easy when you've got the coordinating dies. I've got a piece of taffy cardstock and I've cut it to the same size as the front of my card, and I'm using some limestone. I'm having a moment here. Limestone ink from Altenew, and this I'm making it look like pavers in the background. Is Essentials by Ellen set called Abstract Paint Strokes, and I just scattered these paint strokes like pavers over the whole background. The sentiment, which I thought would be perfect with this stamp set, is also an Essentials by Ellen set, and it's called Spread the Sparkle. And I am using my Misty here because I didn't want to start again. and there is a slight texture to this paper, this card, but not a lot. And the Onyx black ink, like I said, always stamps out perfectly anyway. I've die cut the pull now with the Yupo paper, my die cut. Oh, spit it out. I've die cut my alcohol ink Yupo paper with the pull image, and I've got the center of it, and I thought it'd be fun to add a bit of sparkle to it, so I used my quickie glue pen and the Prismaglitter. Now it looks like it's all covered right there, but what I like to do is actually wait for it to dry a little bit, and then I'll just come in with a soft brush and actually brush the loose bits away. I'll just use my ATG gun to adhere the panel to the front of my top fold card. And like I said, this is the Nina cardstock, so it's the regular American size card. I think it's an A2, because in Australia ours are slightly different shape and they're called an A6 card. I've got my tape runner, and I've added some adhesive to the back of the pull, and I just love the idea that the edge of the pull is popped that little bit higher up on some fun foam, and I've used my matte medium to adhere that down. Now I didn't want this pull sort of sitting over the edge of my cards like this, so once that was dry I just flipped it over and used some scissors. These are just some straight long sharp scissors, I find that works best, and then just cut any of the overhang off. And I think that worked really well. This pull will fit on the card front, but I wanted it on an angle. To add a little bit more sparkle, I'm using my quickie glue pen again, this time on her swimmers, and then just a few dots, and then I can just add some Prismaglitter to that. And now I'm going to have glitter everywhere, at least for the next few days. You know how it is. I've got some of these are some mini glue dots. I'm just adding a couple to the back of the girl, and then I did decide to go with the round tube, and I figured that little black mark, no one's ever going to see it because she's kind of laying right over the top. Well, I made sure that she was laying right over the top of it. And then all that's left to do is pop up my little dive board. I did add a couple of foam dots behind this because I did want it to sit fairly high, and I used some matte medium for the ladder. This card is going to be handed out. I am not going to post it, so I'm not too worried about the height of the images. So I did pop up my little girl as well, or the floaty, what is it? She's on the tube. And if you look at the card at the end, I did actually straighten her up a little bit. She looked funny once I stood her up. That's my finished card for today. I'll link all the products that I've used below. All the rest of the information will be over at my blog, which will also be linked below. Till next time, happy paper crafting. Bye.